Harry Kane arrived in Munich carrying more than just a record-breaking transfer fee. When he left Tottenham Hotspur for FC Bayern Munich, he wasn't just changing leagues, he was chasing validation. For years in England, Kane had been labeled the nearly man, golden boots, record-breaking seasons, individual brilliance, but no trophies. The narrative followed him everywhere. It hovered over every missed final, every late-season collapse. So when Bayern called, Germany's most dominant modern powerhouse, it felt like destiny correcting itself. This was supposed to be the easy part. This was supposed to be the season where Harry Kane finally stopped explaining and started celebrating. At first, everything looked perfect. Kane scored immediately. He adapted to the Bundesliga's tempo with surgical precision. His movement between the lines was effortless. His finishing was ruthless. The Allianz Arena sang his name. German media praised his professionalism. Teammates talked about his intelligence and humility. On the surface, it seemed like Bayern had solved their striker problem overnight. But football isn't just about goals, especially not at a club where expectations don't just exist, they suffocate. Because at Bayern, scoring isn't enough. Winning is the baseline, dominating is the standard. And as the season unfolded, cracks began to appear. Not necessarily in Kane's form, but in the environment around him. Bayern were no longer the invincible machine they once were. The defensive solidity wavered. Midfield control felt inconsistent. Matches that used to end comfortably started requiring desperation. And suddenly, Kane's goals felt like rescue missions rather than statements. For a player who left North London to escape chaos and uncertainty, the irony was impossible to ignore. Bayern were wobbling. The Bundesliga race tightened. In Europe, performances felt unpredictable. Kane could score twice and still walk off the pitch frustrated. Body language started telling stories that interviews wouldn't. The subtle shake of the head, the hands on hips after conceding, the quiet walk back to the center circle. These weren't the gestures of a player content with personal statistics. There's a psychological weight that follows players who carry expectations across borders. In England, Kane was the loyal hero who never forced his way out aggressively. In Germany, he became the symbol of Bayern's ambition. The signing meant to restore European dominance. That's not just pressure, that's identity shifting in real time. Every draw became a referendum, every loss a headline, every tactical decision scrutinized. When Bayern stumbled against rivals, the questions grew sharper. Was the system maximizing Kane's strengths? Was he dropping too deep? Reverting to old habits from his Tottenham days? Or was he compensating for a midfield that couldn't consistently supply him? Analysts debated whether he should stay higher, become more ruthless inside the box, less involved in build-up play. But Kane has always been more than a traditional number 9. He's a creator, a connector, a thinker. Asking him to become a pure poacher ignores what makes him elite. Yet frustration doesn't always come from tactics. Sometimes it comes from timing. He says Kane is in what should be the peak of his career. There are no developmental years left, no next season excuses. Every campaign matters. Every opportunity is finite. That urgency can sharpen a player, but it can also create tension when progress feels uneven. Bayern were supposed to guarantee silverware. Instead, they were fighting for stability. The shadow of past dominance looms large in Munich. This is the club that strung together league titles with mechanical precision. The club that lifted the Champions League with authority. When you join Bayern, you inherit that history. You inherit the ghosts of legends. Kane didn't just join a team, he stepped into a lineage. And when results don't align with legacy, frustration becomes inevitable. There's also the cultural adjustment, subtle but real. The Bundesliga is different from the Premier League. Media narratives are structured differently. Fan expectations are delivered with a different tone. In England, Kane was the centerpiece of every discussion. In Germany, he's part of a broader institutional identity. Bayern's badge is bigger than any individual. That shift can be empowering, but it can also feel isolating when things go wrong. Reports began to hint at internal tension within the squad. Not open conflict, but uncertainty. Managerial decisions scrutinized. Leadership dynamics questioned. Kane, known for professionalism, rarely shows public dissatisfaction. But professionals feel pressure deeply. They internalize it. And when a striker scores at a historic rate yet still senses instability around him, that emotional contradiction builds. Then comes Europe, the ultimate measuring stick. The Champions League isn't just a tournament for Bayern, it's a declaration of status. Kane's move was partially defined by this competition. He wanted nights under the lights that meant something in May, not just August. When performances in Europe fluctuate, the stakes multiply. One mistake can define an entire season. One missed chance can resurrect old narratives about big moments. And here's the uncomfortable truth: Kane knows narratives better than anyone. He's lived with them his entire career. The finals lost with Tottenham, the near misses with England, the debates about whether he disappears in decisive matches. Moving to Bayern was supposed to silence that discourse. But if Bayern falter collectively, the spotlight swings back to him, unfair or not. Frustration also grows when effort and reward don't align. Kane's professionalism hasn't dipped. His goal tally remains elite. His conditioning impeccable. But football is a team sport. When defensive lapses undo attacking brilliance, a striker can feel powerless. Imagine scoring a brace only to draw 2-2 because of structural breakdowns. Over time, that chips away at optimism. There's also the question of leadership. 1. Kane isn't the loudest personality in the room, but he leads through example. At Tottenham, his voice carried weight developed over years. At Bayern, hierarchy already existed. Integrating into that leadership ecosystem takes time. And when turbulence hits, leadership clarity becomes essential. If the dressing room lacks unified direction, even the best signings can feel adrift. The Bundesliga title race intensified pressure in ways few predicted. Bayern aren't accustomed to chasing. 1. They're accustomed to controlling. For Kane, who left England partly to escape chaotic title chases he rarely won, the scenario felt hauntingly familiar. Different language, different stadiums, same emotional volatility. Social media amplified everything. Clips of missed chances, tactical breakdown threads, comparisons to previous Bayern strikers. The digital age leaves no room for quiet processing. Every performance is dissected within minutes. Kane, despite his calm demeanor, is not immune to that environment. And yet frustration doesn't mean regret, it means expectation. Kane expects more from himself and from the club. That's why he moved. He didn't relocate for comfort. He relocated for trophies, for legacy, for that image of lifting silverware in red and white, rewriting his story in one triumphant sweep. The irony is that his individual numbers are historic. He's scoring at a pace that would normally define a perfect debut season. But football memory doesn't archive goals without context. It archives trophies, titles, parades. That's the standard at Bayern. And until that standard is met, internal satisfaction remains incomplete. There's still time. Seasons pivot quickly. Momentum can shift within weeks. A strong European run can erase domestic doubts. A title secured on the final day can transform frustration into resilience. But the tension, the visible edge in Kane's demeanor, suggests a player deeply aware that time is precious. What makes this situation compelling isn't scandal or conflict, it's the subtle psychological battle between expectation and reality. Kane represents ambition fulfilled on paper, but still searching for emotional closure. Bayern represents institutional dominance, adjusting to modern unpredictability. In many ways, this chapter defines both sides. If Bayern rebound and conquer Europe, Kane becomes the missing piece who restored order. If instability persists, questions grow louder about structural planning, tactical direction, and recruitment philosophy. For Kane personally, this is about legacy arithmetic. Goals plus trophies equals validation. Goals without trophies equals repetition of old headlines. That's the equation he's trying to solve in Munich, and maybe that's why the frustration feels heavier, because this move wasn't impulsive, it was calculated, strategic. Years in the making. Leaving Tottenham wasn't easy emotionally. It was a separation from identity, from comfort, from familiarity. That sacrifice demands payoff. As the season progresses, watch his reactions more than his statistics. The glances toward midfield, the urgency in his pressing, the subtle exasperation after defensive errors. These micro moments reveal the emotional temperature beneath the composed exterior. Harry Kane didn't move to Germany to score pretty goals in October. He moved to redefine how football history remembers him, and until that mission is complete, the frustration won't disappear, it will simmer. Because at clubs like Bayern, satisfaction isn't seasonal, it's structural, and Kane didn't trade London rain for Bavarian sunshine just to relive the same unfinished story.